Hello and good evening, everyone. Welcome to another episode of MedAngle's premier It's a Match specialty series, where we dive into various medical and surgical specialties as it pertains to the match. My name is Rabazia. I am a product manager at MedAngle and a final year medical student at CMH Lahore. Joining me tonight is Mehrun Ahmed. She is also a fellow medical student here at CMH Lahore and an associate at MedAngle.
Hello and assalamu alaikum, everyone. Welcome back to our series. In tonight's episode, we will be taking a deep dive into emergency medicine. Now, emergency medicine is a captivating specialty with a profound impact on communities. We have an incredible panel of incoming PGY1s with us tonight, all of whom matched in the 2024 cycle and have graciously agreed to share their insights for any future applicants. Now, to begin introductions for our panel today, Dr. Ahsan, it is fantastic to have you here with us today. Could you kickstart us by giving us a glimpse into your background and maybe like one standout aspect of your journey into emergency medicine?
Thank you so much, Maron, for inviting me over here. It's a pleasure. So my name is Ahsan Masood Khan, as you can see on my screen. I'm originally from Multan, Pakistan. I graduated from Multan Medical and Dental College. I did my internship / house job at National Medical University. So it was not the plan in the beginning to be in the emergency medicine right off the bat. It kind of started, growing on me after discussing with friends and soul searching and those kind of things. And I ultimately started looking at different options, and then I did apply for emergency medicine in residency in Pakistan, where I did not end up getting. So then I did also apply for emergency medicine residency in Hamad. I did not get in there as well, and ultimately I ended up matching in emergency medicine in US. So I'm very glad to have that opportunity, and that's how my emergency medicine journey kind of went from med school to here. So and thank you so much for having me here. Looking forward to this conversation.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure to have you here tonight, and that is a very inspiring and unique journey. Next, we have Dr. Fara.
Hello, how are you? How's it going?
Great, great.
So my name is Dr. and I'm from Jinnah Medical University, and I did my house job in Jinnah Hospital, Karachi. Before USMLE, I had no plan to do USMLE at all. I was preparing for CLAB. I gave my IELTS, but then I got married, and I came to USA. So I started working towards USMLE, but USMLE was not my goal, but emergency medicine was always my goal. And I developed my interest in my house job because that emergency medicine was the first ward I did in my house job. And the moment I stepped into the emergency department, I knew it. This is what I'm going to do with, all my life. So I knew I want to do it. Even during my whole house job after emergency medicine department, I had different rotations: surgery, medicine, chest medicine, psychiatry. But I kept on going back to emergency department. And the other, students, they didn't like EM calls, but I loved EM calls. And even when I was doing my rotation, any other department, I would request our PG to just post me in the EM department. And that's how I knew it, that this is what I'm gonna do with my life. So when I came to USA, I gave my step 1, then step 2, and then I'm an average student, to be very honest. I'm not among the toppers of my class, or, I never got very good GPA in my med school, but something just kept on, I kept on going and going and going, and I didn't give up. And somewhere in my heart, I knew that I would make it. I don't know why, but there was something in my heart that I knew it, that, oh, I'll make it. Although I have average scores, nothing that great, but my resume was, I guess, my resume is really good because of so many co-curricular activities, so much experience of public health. I've been a public speaker all my life. I have even been to Lahore so many times for debate competitions and stuff. So I guess that's what stood out, and my confidence during the match journey, I guess that's what actually, helped me for the match. So this is me here with you today.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Farah. That was a beautiful story to hear about. And I love, the passion that you had from EM from day one. And I hope that through this episode, we can delve even deeper into that, and as well as your CV and the things that you think that really made you stand out as an applicant. Lastly, we have Dr. Rohail Khan, who some of you may recognize from our early episode, which was on USCEs and LOR. It will be linked in our bio if you want to reference that as well. Dr. Rohail, the floor is yours.
Hey guys, how's it going? First off, nice to meet all of you. Congrats to Mufarba and Dr. Azib for matching. So I'm Rohail. I'm from Islamabad, but I kind of grew up in the US for a bit. Moved to Pakistan for medical school. One unique thing about me, I guess, for my journey is that I went to 2 different medical schools. So I started my career off at USRA Medical and Dental College and then transferred over to Shifa. And that's where I eventually graduated from. Honestly, EM, I just feel like the best specialty. I'm sure they can agree. It's something that like has to resonate with you. I think if you really want to do EM, you'll know, and after, I guess, we talk about everything today, and any student who's actually interested, would be able to resonate with all of our passions. And I just think that just being someone who's very, open to conversation, open to meeting different people, I think that's kind of what brings you to EM. So I've always felt that, being the first one to see any patient, to be able to, have a conversation with them and have the patient, open up to you and give you insight into their lives and, something that's very personal to them. And just in a matter of minutes, you get to get all this information from them that they won't tell anybody. So I think that's what really does emergency medicine for me.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Rohail, Dr. Hassan, and Dr. Farva for joining us tonight. So let's just go over some data really quickly. Dr. Rohail, if you may, what is the average, step 2 score, number of publications, spots, and more importantly, how much do they matter for EM?
So I'll let somebody else answer the actual numbers and average scores part. Like Dr. Mufarba was saying, I don't think I was, a topper at all in my school. I thought I was elite. I actually started medical school and I passed anatomy first year by 1. So I was like bottom tier medical student starting off. And then I worked myself up and I was, towards like the higher bracket and towards the end of my school. But I don't think that really defines you. I don't think that really shows who you are. And especially for emergency medicine, I don't think it's necessarily about the numbers. Of course, there's average numbers. My step scores were average or slightly below or slightly above average. I don't think I was, I didn't score 270s or 280s. I'm not that person. But like she mentioned before, that it's about everything else. It's about, what else have you done? What else could you do? And I think EM is it's bigger than numbers. I don't think it's your step scores. I don't think it's your, medical school grades. I think it's, if you want to do this, you can do this. So I don't necessarily have the numbers for it. I'm sure someone else can speak better to it, but that was my insight to that.
Okay. Does anyone else want to discuss specific numbers before we dive into a completely different?
Yeah, I would just like to add to what Dr. Rohail said. I completely agree with him, because for EM, what I observed because of my fellow applicants and my whole circle who applied this year, specifically this year, scores didn't matter. I would not say at all, but they didn't matter much because of, the Nepal incident also. They are not looking for the numbers right now. They are looking for the candidates who are not just, like bookworms and who can just do something more. Because, when you are in this journey, you are in USMLE journey, of course, you are better than most of these students out there, right? Because that's why you are doing USMLE. You are intelligent, you can achieve anything. But like for what thing that really mattered this year, I guess it was not the score, it was overall application. Even a few students that I know, they had like just passing marks in step 2 CK and then they matched. And I think that was because of the overall application. So truly this year, scores didn't matter. And for upcoming this year as well, I think score would not matter a lot. They will matter, of course, a little bit, because few programs, they have filter and stuff for the applicants, but like for most of the hospitals, scores will not matter that much. Even if you are an average student with average scores, I think you are good to go for the match. Just work out on your rest of your application.
Right. Okay. So what kind of student would you say, Dr. Hassan, what kind of student aspires to be, an EM resident?
So I'll just give my example. I'm kind of a person who likes to know a little bit of everything. Like, if I feel I don't know anything about any topic, like not even in medicine, like physics or like just media or social media or like a movie or a TV show, I would like to know about like some details about it just to be able to understand what is it about. So I think you have to have that in your personality to be to you know to be a good EM resident, I would say. Reason being, in EM, you don't know what's coming through the door. It could be eye trauma. It could be just as little as like a cough, just a fever, or it could be like a major like a tibial fracture or like a level 1 trauma. It could be anything, and you have to be prepared to tackle it on and just be able to think on its feet and just start stabilizing the patient, because that's your job. So that's what the kind of student should be like. They should have passion to know all different kind of specialties, and that's what I wanted to be. When I thought about, okay, the most lucrative specialties out there like cardiology, GI. So but what if I get tired of just treating hearts? But if I want to treat like gut, or like take care of like elderly patients, or like take care of like children, how would I do that? At that point I would not be able to do that, right? So the only way to be just jack of all trades is to be an EM resident, an EM doctor, ER doc, basically. So that was my motivation to be in the ER. I think that is one thing that should be in a student to be able to go into the specialty and do this.
Okay. And how are EM doctors, typically stereotyped? Because a lot of students, that's the first thing they hear. They go up and they look up to stereotypes. So how are EM residents stereotyped, Dr. Fara?
Can you repeat the question, please?
Yeah, just what's the stereotype of the average, EM doc?
Stereotype, I'm not sure. Like, I haven't heard any. Just this thing that a lot of people, when I told people that, oh, I'm applying to EM, firstly, they were like, EM? Why are you applying in EM? And I was like, because I love EM. And then they goes like, but I would suggest you just apply to, IM and FM as well. And I was like, why? I don't want to do it. Why would I apply in IM and FM just and spend all that money or applying to those programs? Then one of my superiors at one rotation, she said, just in case, apply. Because I guess the stereotype is that, oh, you're applying to EM, you will not match. I guess this is what the most common thing that I heard, even from like my superiors and places where I did my rotation, and some of my friends who were already, consultants over here and physicians over here, and they were like, just apply to something else as well. So I think the stereotype is that as an IMG, especially as a Pakistani student, you will not match an EM. Even this year when I matched, and my colleagues from my hospital and they were surprised that I matched. Firstly, that I matched. Secondly, that I matched in EM. They couldn't take it that, oh, Farva matched, and that too in EM. So I guess there's a stereotype is that as a Pakistani average student, you cannot match. But that's not true. That's not true. I got interviews on the first day when they opened the interviews. I got the interviews first day of that. And afterwards, I just got one more interview, and I matched in the program that I got on the first day. I matched in that program. So I guess this is the stereotype around this. So all the people who are applying this year to EM, don't let anybody discourage you. There were people who discouraged me. There were people who, tried to push me down. So just don't listen to anybody. If you want to do it, you do it. And then just have tawakkul and faith in your heart, because I guess that's very important for this journey, that you should have faith in something superior that, oh, I'll make it. And you'll make it. Trust me, you'll make it.
Okay, all right. Those are some of the stereotypes with regards to the match process. What about actual EM docs, Dr. Rohail?
Yeah, so I'd just like to add a little bit on that. But she's absolutely right in terms of, people saying that, oh, like you can't match EM. I've always wanted to do EM. So no one, I've never had anyone except maybe my wife or my parents actually like believe in, me applying EM. Everyone tells you, oh, have a backup. But like if you don't want to do anything else, like why would I match internal medicine or surgery or anything else when I don't even want to do it? Like that's not why I'm in medicine. But anyways, back to the stereotypes. So I don't know if you guys know Dr. Clock I'm talking on like Instagram or stuff. Yeah. So I'm sure you've seen like the helmet and the bike. So
Yeah.
like, the stereotypical
The
EM doc is
sunglasses.
just, yeah, you have the sunglasses, Diet Coke or like, a Celsius or something. Just
Yeah.
that's
Mhm.
so like high on energy, trying to figure out something to do, rock climbing, like just stuff that's outdoorsy, and just active, I guess. I think that's kind of like the stereotype that people think, oh, someone who's very outdoorsy, someone who wants to, just do everything all at one time. So I think that's kind of what they present the stereotype at. But I mean, I not necessarily. I play a lot of sports. I like to be outdoors a lot. I drink a lot of Celsius, or I'm always on some sort of caffeine, coffee, anything. So I think that's kind of like where you put it. But do I think everyone's like that? Obviously not. There are people who aren't like that. But like if you think stereotype EM, I think I fit the stereotype EM. But if you think stereotype EM, that's kind of the person that that comes to mind.
Yeah, absolutely. You just stole the words from my mouth. I wanted to mention Dr. Glumflocken. He puts it absolutely perfectly, the way Rohail said. And just wanted to add a little bit on that. One thing that I found very unique about EM docs, wherever I rotated, I had a pleasure of rotating at like various hospitals in the ER. And one thing that I found common in all the ER docs is they are very like type A personalities, but very laid back in a sense that they want to incorporate you in their discussions, very welcoming generally, like very like if it's like a male, it's a very big bro types, and even if it's like a female, similar kind of a vibe. And even the attendings, they're like very, because we share the desks and living the working space in the ER. So it's like very like a casual, but at the same time very high stressed kind of high paced environment. So yeah, that's the typical ER doc that I have found like mostly everywhere. And I think that's what Rohail and Farwa, they describe perfectly, honestly.
Yeah, and there's one more thing that I would like to add, that one of the features that I've observed when I was rotating with them is that they're very good at communication. Oh my God. I was like, I thought I'm good in communication because of debates, but then when I was rotating, I was like, oh my God, like this is what you need to be a doctor, not just EM. I think every doctor, because sometimes our parents, they complain, they're like, we went to the doctor, they didn't even look at us, and they were like, duh, 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 and they just and then they just wrote our prescription and nothing else. But when I was rotating, I was like, oh my God, this is a typical EM doctor. They have to be good at communication. How they were greeting people, how they were talking to them. I guess it inspired me even more because of the public speaking background, that, oh, this is what I want to do.
Absolutely. Thank you guys so much. These are the same stereotypes we've all been hearing. I also I also, similar to Dr. Roale, I used to study in the States, and then I came here for medical school. And in my time there, I worked as an EMT, and it was a very, very similar experience. Like, it was just very energy drinks and adrenaline and all of that. But it's one of the things I personally really love about EM as well. And definitely, Dr. Fara, I love the point that you brought up about communication as well, because it's so important, especially being like that initial point of contact for these patients in very serious emergencies sometimes as well. The emphasis on communication cannot be understated in like any specialty, but even more so in emergency medicine. Now that we've covered a bit of an overview of emergency medicine, what it looks like, what brought you guys into emergency medicine in the first place, let's get a little bit more granular. We're going to be talking about, building your CV and building your application as somebody who decides, I want to pursue emergency medicine. Now, how do I get there? Right now, we're going to be breaking this into while you're a medical student and when you actually graduate, because of course there is a difference in the things you're able to do within those two different capacities. So my first question is for Dr. Farwa. Now, you mentioned that you had a very early interest in emergency medicine from before you kind of knew, I'm going to go into emergency medicine. Now, what activities did you engage on early on in medical school that kind of helped align your interests with emergency medicine specifically?
So basically, I didn't know in med school that I wanted to do EM. I was always interested in surgery. I wanted to be a general surgeon, always in my med school. But once I started my house job and I took emergency medicine as my first ward, I knew that, oh, not surgery. That's not my thing. this is my thing. Emergency medicine is my thing. I guess that it's also because of the whole public speaking background that I was good in words when I was talking to patients, and then PGs will give my examples. So I was like, oh, I'm really good at communication. So when I was doing my first rotation in house job EM, so when I was talking to patients and I received some, patients who were brought dead or, some accidents or something, so I was able to calm my nerves. And I guess that's the one thing that you really need when you're working in emergency medicine. Then you have to calm yourself down, because you cannot, freak out with the patients, attendings and everything. You have to keep your calm. And then, so I think I really worked on my communication skills more. So after my house job, I did two jobs that really helped me with my communication skills more. I was doing debates and stuff. I did one more parliamentary debate competition after I graduated at UCL Lahore. But after that, I was just like, I don't want to do that. But instead of that, I did something in public health. I did this one project with Shaukat Khanam Hospital Lahore, where I was their moderator for their breast cancer awareness campaign. And they took me to almost 60 different cities of Pakistan. And I delivered that session to the students that I knew, to the students I didn't know, to the students that in the cities that I haven't even heard names of, like Marwat, Malakand, Sawabi, Dera Ismail Khan, Kohat. I didn't even know that, oh, these cities are here in Pakistan. And I guess that really helped me for my emergency medicine journey, because I think that you have to be best. You have to be, at your A game with your communication skills when you are applying for EM. So for the students who are trying to apply this year, I would just say that just try to do something in public health. Just try to have some experience of public health, because they also ask about it, that, oh, what else you will bring to our program? What else you can do? Because, everybody will be breaking scores. They have the, the knowledge background. Everyone will have that. But what will make you, different from other applicants can be your public health experience, your public health experience, your volunteer experience. In my med school, I went to Iraq for a month to do a camp, because there's like the biggest pilgrimage of the world over there. So I went to Iraq for 1 month as well to do emergency medicine camp on the site. And then I did this one project with Getz Pharmaceuticals, where I was their moderator for different quiz competitions for doctors, and they took me to like 25 different cities of Pakistan. And I guess that really helped me in my journey as a EM. And then when I came here, I did my rotations, just the same things that people tell you to do. Nothing special, but I guess do something in public health, and that really will contribute to your EM journey.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Dr. Fara. That was very comprehensive, and it gives a very good idea to anybody who's watching this and is currently in medical school and, wants to know what are the things they can do to actually gain more experience to the exposure to the field, and also develop their CV as well. These are, options that can be explored. My next question is for Dr. Ahsan. Now, when it comes to the actual ERAS application, what do you think are the most important categories to focus on in the experiences section? Of course, they're all important, but what would you feel like in EM specifically has a greater emphasis, such as leadership, teaching, education?
Yes. So one thing that I found, and whenever I talk to anyone, an ER attending or like a resident or anyone from ER, one thing that was like common among all the conversations was the term team sport. That ER is a team sport. It is not like a one-person thing. You have to be able to function very efficiently within a team, and because when in the ER you need help of the nurses, your co-residents, your attending, and how you manage that, basically that part. So when you are listing your experiences in the ERAS application, make sure that you mention that point as well, that you are able to do things within a team. Obviously, this is not only one thing. There are other aspects that you need to be able to mention, and some other things that are your experiences, what procedures did you learn during your rotations, and where did you rotate, obviously. So those are the few things that you need to keep in mind. And other important thing is you have to have like a very EM directed CV. That is very important, because I have learned whenever I talk to a lot of people, a lot of IMGs recently, because there was a situation where recently not many US grads were applying for EM, so it ended up as a like a backup specialty for a lot of IMGs. I don't think that it works that way, because in ER programs they are looking specifically for those people who are really interested in the ER, not like a backup specialty. I haven't really seen results with that. I have talked to people. So you need to be really interested in that. You cannot just be like, oh, so now the US grads are not applying in the EM, so I can just put like an ER as like a backup specialty. So your ERAS application should speak to what you are applying for, and that is like if you are interested in EM, that you should have like EM experience on there. So that is very important too.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Dr. Aslan. My next question is for Dr. Rohail, which is what extracurriculars, research opportunities, and like US clinical experiences can actually benefit a medical student that wants to tailor their resume towards emergency medicine?
Yeah, so I think just to like, kind of follow up on what they were saying, I think just being involved and doing EM related stuff is very important, right? So, but in terms of what you could have on your application, I think leadership is, it's big. Anything you can do to be involved and show that you're a leader. It's a team sport, yes, but you need to have that personality to say like, hey, listen, let's do this. Be able to lead a team, because as a physician, you are the leader, right? You have nurses with you, you have your techs with you. You need to be able to know how to manage patient flow, manage running your own department, and you'll learn that as you go through residency, but seeing someone have those qualities is definitely a plus. So I think all that, and then things you can do as a medical student, I'd say, I'll talk about what I did. So I worked as a scribe. This was after medical school, but I think that experience in itself was it was very eye-opening, because I got to actually be in the emergency department, see how patient flow goes, see how attendings actually take notes. So writing their notes, I just kind of I didn't actually see all those patients, but it just felt like I was the one seeing them because I was doing all their notes. So I think that definitely helps. Anything to show that this is what you want to do. So any like medical camps, if any student can get involved with, like, even in Pakistan, you don't have to do it in the US. Any medical camps you could do, being the first person to see a patient. I think the more open you are to that, the easier your transition to emergency medicine residency is going to be. So I think being in Pakistan, I think those medical camps, if you can be involved in it, do as many as you can. And one, you kind of give back, and secondly, you get to learn a lot from that. You get to meet a lot of different people, hear a lot of different stories. And if you can go to the US, I'd say even before all this, get done with your step one. I didn't do it in medical school, but get it out of the way. So more opportunities are open for you guys. Finding those clinical experiences, whether it's shadowing, whether it's an actual, an elective, anything you can do to get in an emergency department, if not an emergency department, an urgent care, something where you're actually involved in emergency medicine care. And like Dr. Aslan was saying, you can't, this isn't a backup specialty. Like, it's not going to work where, like 2 years ago, we had like 200 or 500 open spots 2 years ago. But if you think you could just, back up, apply EM, like, that's not how it's going to work. You need to fit there. Like, your application needs to say, like, you want to do emergency medicine. And people can, obviously, these program directors and assistant program directors can pick up on all this stuff. You can't fool anybody.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Dr. Rohail. Now, Dr. Fara, now that we've discussed, some of the things that a medical student can do to tailor the resume towards emergency medicine, what are the things that a medical graduate, somebody who has recently graduated from medical school and now has this, all these opportunities in front of them and doesn't know which way they should go towards, what would you recommend they do to build their CV for emergency medicine?
Okay, so for particularly emergency medicine, I would say just start off by doing some volunteer work, some, research projects, some research papers, because, it's just not one thing that contributes to a good applicant. There are many things that play a little part in your application. You should have some research papers. So I guess the most time, because during my journey, I guess the most time consuming thing was research papers, because they get a lot of the time to get published and, you know, to be approved. They keep on getting rejected and then they publish. So I guess start working towards some research papers that are associated with the emergency medicine. Their topics should be like I did one research paper whose title was artificial intelligence in emergency medicine. So it was very new, and I think that first things first, start doing some researches, and start doing some volunteer work, start applying for EM rotations, because nowadays they don't need 3 slots, they just need one SLOE, you know, the slow. They just need one of them from an emergency medicine attending from USA. So just start working on that. Once you have one rotation, at least one rotation in EM, you are good to go for EM. They don't need like more rotations from EM. They're okay with it. Even I had just one rotation in EM. My one rotation was in family medicine, and my other rotation was in internal medicine. And then my one rotation was in orthopedic department. So they don't care about your other rotations. They just care about right now for one slow. So I guess because the visa, because students who are especially coming from India, Pakistan, or anywhere from Asia, so their whole visa process, that's a lot of, you know, work. So just start working on your visa application, on your rotations, have some good volunteer work in any department or in any aspect which you can relate to EM. You know what I observed, that as an applicant, even there's something that you didn't do in EM, you should know how to relate it to EM. And that's what I did with my application, that everything that I did in my life, while I was undergraduate, post-graduation, I tied everything to EM, that, oh, this is why I did it. This is why I did the Shaukat Khanum project. This is why I did the Gatch Pharmaceutical project. This is why I did the private job, because I was learning this, and this contributed to EM. So I think you should start working on your application. And even if it's not EM specific, you should know how to tie everything down to EM. I think that's a thing that you should start working on right now.
One thing I would like to add to Dr. Fawaz, you mentioned all the right things, absolutely. One thing I would like to add for the medical students who are aspiring to be in an ER resident and an ER doc is in Pakistan, especially if they can do, if they are in the government position, like working as a medical officer, they should try to work in the ERs, in DHQs, district headquarter hospitals, or Tehsil headquarter hospitals, or even bigger hospitals, wherever they find opportunity. They can mention it in their CV, and it will put a big +1 on their CV, and it would be stand out for the program directors here in US. Another thing, even bigger than this medical officer job, if they can find a residency while waiting for a visa, EM residency, because these days visa delays and processing, those are affecting a lot of people, and there's a good chance that some of you guys would end up getting in that, caught up in that thing. So it's better to just start a ER residency in Pakistan, or wherever you are, you are a medical student. Just get into the residency. So if your ultimate goal is to an ER doc in US, you have that in your CV, and it speaks strongly to your commitment to the specialty. And I think there is no bigger +1 you can get, even after researches and rotations, because one thing that I have realized in the ER is everything lags behind and pales in comparison to actual clinical experience in the ER. That is the thing they look for. And if you have the ER residency under your resume, like 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, depending on how much you can do, if you have done like the whole 4 year or 3 year, wherever, how much residency duration there is, then you are like worth gold. Honestly, that's my 2 cents.
Just to add to that, sorry, I know this is like dragging on, but I second what Dr. Hassan said. I think that experience, like if you can, work in an emergency department anywhere, doesn't matter what country you're in, actual clinical work will definitely go a long way, and it speaks to your, credibility, and speaks to your experience. And I know when I was a medical student, people would tell me, "Oh, you don't have to worry about house job if you're gonna do, like all this stuff." I did like 2-3 months of house job, and they put me in OBGYN, but I transferred to the emergency department, and that experience there was, and later on when I put it in my CV, it was something I talked about in my interviews, that I did work in an emergency department. I did have that experience. So I think I feel like a lot of that's just old school stuff. Like, oh, don't worry about it. Just do your steps, get like a 280 and you're good to go. Like actual work will go a long way.
Yeah.
And that experience counts for something.
Thank you guys so much. That was very comprehensive, and it really, opened the doors to what really matters when you're applying towards EM. Now, we did mention a SLO, which is a standardized letter of evaluation. Dr. Ehsan, if you could elaborate a little bit for us on how it's different and if it's actually stronger than a letter of recommendation when you're applying for emergency medicine.
Yes, absolutely. So it's something that is very unique to EM. And so what is a SLO? It's not a slowly standard letter of evaluation, if I'm saying it right. SLO is basically structured evaluation of how you did as a med student in the rotation in any department, ER in US, basically. That's what SLO is. That's the best thing foreign medical graduate can get by rotating in the ER. But unfortunately, SLOs are very hard to come by. It's very challenging because of some administrative things, some bureaucratic red tape, like some issues. We foreign graduates are unable to get an actual rotation in the ERs. I tried so hard. I was ready to pay my insurance liabilities, those kind of things from my own pocket just to do a rotation there to get like an actual SLOE, but I was not able to do that because of those things. But recently they did lax some of it, and they have like different kinds of SLOs that you can get. I won't be able to list them all, but you can look them up on the website. Even if you work like a shadower or observer in the ER and you spend like a week or 2 weeks there, and if you do well, then attendings are more likely to give you that SLO. But in my case, I was able to secure one SLO. But they did mention it over there that it was like a shadowing / observership experience, not an actual hands-on thing, because I could not do it. It was just not possible. Institution policies and all those things. So, but it did make a huge difference for me, I guess. And I think it went a long way for me in securing the interviews and then later on the residency as well. So I think it's really important to work on it. If you can get that, it's for sure it's much better to get a SLO rather than just a letter of recommendation. But if you cannot get a SLO, then letter of recommendation from an ER doc is another next best thing you can do.
Yeah, I would just like to add to that there are, just to be brief, there are 3 kinds of SLO. So one is the one that you can get from a residency, a hospitals attending that have a residency program. Second is the one that you can get from the hospital, which doesn't have a residency program. Then the third one is that you can get from any attending from any hospital, they have residency or not, it doesn't matter. So there are like 3 kinds of SLO, if I'm not wrong. So usually what's the problem is that students usually focus on getting a rotation in the hospitals that have residency program, but usually we don't get it. IMGs, it's really difficult to have a rotation in a hospital with a residency program. It's really, really hard. You're just sending cold emails and wasting your time. Sometimes it works for people, but it's rare. But second thing, to get a SLO from a hospital that doesn't have a residency program, I guess that works. So I would suggest to the students who are trying to apply this year for EM, reach out to the hospitals, to the private hospitals who doesn't have a residency program, and then apply to those. Try to find out some Asian attending, and they always help you out. So try to find some Indian attendings or some Pakistani attendings in a private hospitals. Then you can just rotate with them, you can shadow them, you can do observership with them, and then they will give you a SLO. So it will save you a lot of time, because they usually respond because they don't have a residency program, so they're a busy hospital, but not that of a busy hospital. So just try to apply to few of those hospitals who doesn't have a residency program, and then I guess you will be able to secure a rotation over there. That's what I did, and I secured a rotation, and I did my rotation with them, and I got a SLO from them. Just
to kind of piggyback off of that too, I think of course getting a SLO in the US is top notch. If you can get that done, that's great. So I, again, like as I was saying, so I tried finding a lot of opportunities. I was emailing people, just looking up, trying to find programs. I did do 2 shadowing things in the US in the emergency department, but I was not able to get a slow out of those. But my slow was actually from my medical school in Pakistan, and it was during about the time that I did my house job. So I ended up emailing like the American Board of Emergency Medicine, or CORD, sorry, COORD, which is like the Council of Residency Directors or whatnot. And I got to find out that you don't have to be a US program director to write a slow. You can just be a program director. And my program director at the hospital I was at happened to be an MD anyway. So he was able to write me a slow, and, you know, a great one for that matter. And I think that's what kind of helped me get that check mark of having a slow and being able to apply. So for people who aren't able to get, you know, opportunities in the US, Shifa has a great emergency department. You know, I vouch for them. I know Rohail Khan has one. So any emergency department where you can go and, you know, like actually work, it's definitely going to be better than shadowing. That's what I was told. So I think if you can even secure a rotation here in an emergency department in Pakistan, sorry, in an emergency department, I think that would go a long way too. And, you know, then just you could just talk to, at least I know Shifa people know how to do the slows. I don't know about Rohail Khan, but I know they have an emergency department, so you can talk to them about it too, and hopefully get your slow from there, and that will mean something.
Yeah, you can even rotate with any, government hospitals in Pakistan. Jinnah Hospital has a great EM department. Jinnah Hospital Lahore, Jinnah Hospital Karachi, they have really good ED departments. I can vouch for them. And if you get to, any PG, any attending, or any, graduating PG from there, and they can write your slow, that would be great as well.
Absolutely. Thank you guys so much. That actually provided a lot of insight into the slow, which, you know, it's definitely a great area for a lot of applicants because, you know, it's something very specific to emergency medicine. And, you know, you're not really sure about how to go about in actually obtaining a slow. Now, I do have a follow-up question regarding this standard letter of, you know, evaluation. Yeah. Which is, would it be preferred for someone to try and complete their, you know, elective or rotation to obtain a slow while they're in medical school, or is it harder after you graduate to actually obtain a slow, specifically like if you want to get it in the United States?
So I'll answer that. I think you want to get a slow when you're in medical school. So basically what a slow is, right? It's a standardized letter of evaluation. And what they're doing is they're evaluating you amongst your peers. So let's say 20 people rotate there. If they give everyone a 5 out of 5 in every category, that's not how it goes. So everyone's at a 3, so which is the average. And then some are going to go up and some are going to go down. So for example, program directors know that, okay, let's say hospital A, you know, 5 people rotate there and they apply to hospital B. So if hospital B gets their letters and they're all 5 out of 5 and everything, so that means nothing to them. That means they're all 3 out of 3s because they're all ranked equally. So what the slow actually does is it evaluates you amongst your peers. So let's say you stand out amongst the 4 other people, the 4 other people that are there. So you'll get the 4 or the 5, while, you know, 2 of them might get the 2, and then, you know, the middle one's going to get the 3. So it's everyone that was there, everyone in your class, and your ranks amongst them in whatever category, whether it be communication, whether it be, you know, clinical acumen, whatever the case may be. So you're ranked out of your peers. So that's what makes a slow important to emergency physicians, is because it's not just this person was a great doctor, like I got to see everyone, great communication skills. So it's not just adjectives describing who you are or gassing you up. It's actually comparing you to your peers to say how well you perform, you know, out of a bunch of like 20 doctors, 30 doctors, or medical students for that matter. So I think it's definitely better to try to get one while you're in medical school, because that way you're able to get your insurances out of the way and you're able to, you know, like you're still a student, and it makes it a lot easier. Getting one after graduation is unlikely compared to, like, you know, being very hard.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for clarifying that point. Now, our next question is for Dr. Ahsan, which is, how would you recommend, you know, shaping a personal statement to match, you know, the charisma and the unique aspects of emergency medicine?
So I think a personal statement should speak to what you are and how you can describe yourself in an interview afterwards. I cannot really honestly speak to like a unique aspect of a personal statement that you can do in your PS, because you have to obviously tweak it a little bit to the speciality. but your journey, your experience is going to be the same, like what kind of person you are. Even if you're applying for internal medicine, you're applying for family medicine, you're applying for EM. So it's just your personality that speaks through the personal statement. So in my case, I don't think I did anything unique for EM per se. I just wrote a personal statement. I did apply for internal medicine as well as a backup, but my first preference was EM. I wrote a personal statement, and then I in my case I did not tweak it a whole lot. Probably Farwa or Rohail can speak more to it, so I'll just leave it to them.
I guess I'll go.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think my personal statement was I had a lot of compliments on it, and it was definitely a point of conversation during my interviews. I think personal statements are very unique. I think it just depends on what made you who you are and how and why you're applying to emergency medicine or any other specialty. I don't, it's counter to what Dr. Azib was saying. I think I would advise someone to make their personal statement very personal to the specialty they're applying in. I think that it's not, someone would once told me, it's not really about why you want to be a doctor. It's about why you want to be an EM doc, right? It's not, don't be generic with it. Be real about what made you want to come into specialty, or what shaped you into the person you are. So my personal statement, I talked about basically going from the US back to Pakistan for medical school, and how that shaped me as a person, and leaving. Actually, the university I'm at now, the hospital I'm at, is Rutgers, Robert Wood Johnson, and I actually started undergrad there. So I graduated high school and I started college there, and I left the first semester. So I talked about how, like, leaving and getting to Pakistan, and I talked about building relationships with people and my family and all that, connecting with them again. So I think all those experiences kind of defined me as a person, and me as a person is who my patient is getting as an emergency medicine doctor, right? So I think I kind of linked all those together. I mean, if anyone's really interested, I don't mind sharing, but I think, like my personal statement, but we can, if anyone's actually very interested, I don't mind discussing that with them in detail later. But I would just like to recap, just, make it specific to your field, not just about why you want to be a doctor, but why you want to be an EM doc or any other specialty, and be true to who you are. Don't fabricate things. Don't, over exaggerate things. Just be real. That's what they want to see.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would like to add as well. I talked about my PS. I got questions about my PS in every single interview, because I wrote how I got into a med school, and that was a really inspiring journey for me myself. Even now, when I feel discouraged by something, I think of that time, that how I got into a med school. So I started my PS from that. And then, everybody in every single interview, that asked me about, oh, tell us about your journey. Oh, how was it? Oh, tell us about that friend that helped you at that time. They, asked me specifics. They asked me, they were inspiring. So I guess your PS should be inspiring. Your words should show your passion and your compassion and your personality, that what are you and what you are going to bring to the program. So I directed my PS that way, and I got it checked from different people many times. I paid for it. I was like, just check my PS, take money, whatever, just check it. So I had some, some editing with my PS, but my PS, I guess, stood out. That's why I got interviews. And I think people should start working, because, the one mistake that I made too, that I wrote it in the last month. Don't do that. Write your personal statement right now. In this month, start writing your personal statement. Ask yourself what I want to do, why I am here, what inspired me during my journey, So just write, because, they are not looking for, I would say, scripted words. They are looking to know you as a person. And you can do a great job with your PS by letting them know what kind of person you are, and what brought you here, and what contributed to your journey. And I guess just one advice I would like to give, that start working on it right now. Get it checked from people, pay for it, whatever, but just start working on your PS right now.
Right. Okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Farwa, Dr. S, and Dr. Rohail, for all of that. So now, we've spent some time working on our CV, and we've applied to a lot of programs, and now we've officially entered into the math season. Right. So Dr. Hassan, could you comment on, what are some of the best approaches for EM interviews?
Absolutely. I think interview skills and being able to interview right is like a make or break thing. I cannot emphasize it enough. I have been on the both ends of being interviewed and interviewing someone for positions, and it doesn't matter how much work you have done on the back end, building up your CV and all those things. If you're not able to verbalize the things you have done in the right way and in a more concise way, it's gonna come haunting you back. So you have to be able to be, verbalize what you did, and be really good at interviewing. So having said that, for EM, I think it's like any other interview of any other residency interview, like any other specialty. And unique thing, I did not find it unique to like just EM specific interview, but I would say this, that for the interview you have to be able to just make sure that it's a conversational interview rather than just being like a robotic and just trying to just speak your words and answer those questions in a very robotic monotonic way. So just keep it conversational, keep it very, as I mentioned earlier, the kind of ER docs that I have dealt with, they were all like very laid back, very incorporating. So that's how they are in the interviews as well. They're like very just talking and just getting to know you. How would you fit in their team? How would you do in a high stress situations? Because they don't want someone who is like would not be able to keep their calm and composure during the high stress environment. They want someone who they can rely on, because as everyone mentioned, it's a team sport. So just be very confident, very calm, be who you are, be true to yourself, and just and when you are just uh, true to yourself, you speak in a more confident way. You are just making sure that you are speaking words which are true to you and how they define you, basically. So that's the thing I experienced during the interviews. You have to be able to just talk about what you did in a very, very apt, very concise way, and don't over explain things, don't under explain things. Just hit the sweet spot, be concise, but give us some details, and examples go a long way as well. Yeah.
Okay, great. So you mentioned that the interview itself doesn't differ too wildly from other residencies and other specialties. How would you say, Dr. Rohail, if there are two or three differences that you can point to between EM, the match process, and any other specialty, any salient differences you can point to?
So my wife actually matched internal medicine, and we were discussing how like our interviews go and all that. And what I realized was most of my interviews were like, as I was saying, just conversations. It wasn't, there wasn't much to it. They weren't trying to like get some information out of you. They were just trying to spend 20, 30 minutes with you, see who you are, talk to you about you, ask you questions about things you did. So I think the gist of it was just trying to get to know you and get to see how like you explain what you did, talk about the things you did without it being like a timed, okay, answer this question for me and you get like 10 seconds. It wasn't any of that. So I think with internal medicine, I noticed that, from her experience at least, that it was more so about, oh, like why this, or the questions were more serious per se. While EM, I noticed, was more just laid back. It was, hey, what, I saw that you did this, talk to me about that. So I played a lot of basketball. I actually started a league in Pakistan. I'm drinking out of the cup now. So we talked about that, anything that anyone found interesting in my CV that they liked, we had a conversation about. So I think that's what was unique about EM, which I felt like, at least I can't speak to everything, but at least a few IM interviews, which were a bit more serious. And one place asked my wife a question, like a medical question. And I was like, please don't rank that place. Like let's not go there. Like, so like, I think interviews are supposed to be more about getting to know the person. And that's what they're really looking for in EM, is to see if you fit that personality. If they wanted to call it the 2 a.m. test, right? I'm sure you guys know if you could sit next to someone at 2 a.m., have a conversation, or that's pretty much what they're looking for.
Yeah, I would also like to add to Dr. Roale and Dr. Hassan that my background for the interviews, I had like my trophies, and I love Friends. I love Friends show. It's like my go-to show. So I had like a Central Perk, thing on the top of my shelf. they talked to me about Friends in every single interview. We talked about Friends, we shared our favorite characters, we shared our favorite episodes, and if like one of the PDs talked about it, not like the associate or something, one of the PDs said, oh, that's Friends, that's Central Perk. We are playing that show all the time in our waiting room and like that. And with one of the PDs, we talked about football, we talked about favorite players, we talked about I talked about the match that we saw in Tampa Bay. So, they're just looking forward to know you as a person. So even all of my interviews, they didn't even feel like interviews. At first, before interviews, I was really freaking out. But then I talked to myself. I was like, this is the part at which I'm actually good at. I don't know what I'm worried about. I talked to myself and I was like, Farba, calm down. This is the part where you are actually good at. You're really good at talking. You are really good at communicating. You have so many trophies. So just calm yourself down. And trust me, like none of my interviews felt like an interview. It was more like of a, just a conversation, about favorite characters, about my journey, about what is my favorite country to travel, and, things like that. And this place where I'm at, so, you have the interview on one day, but this PD, this program director, had 30 minutes interview one day before we interview with the other, associates. So one day before, he just talked to me for half an hour and we had a conversation and we kicked it off right away. And he was like, that's why I do it, that because, I get to know you. And it was really good. And I guess this matters a lot, that you should be able to talk to people in your interviews, and just not just some stereotypical, medical talking, some actual, talking heart to heart, soul to soul, where you can touch, hearts with other people.
Also, sorry, just to add, sorry. The interviews aren't just about, us trying to get into a job. It's also about, it's not just about them trying to, pick you. It's also about you trying to pick them. So like, also ask questions, like try to see if that's a place where you want to be. Like you don't want to rank a place, or you don't want to rank a place highly where you feel like you don't fit or you don't mess with the people there. So it goes both ways. Just try to be open about, it's not like you're not, we're desperate to try to get a job. Everyone wants to match. But at the end of the day, like you want to have some say to where you want to go, right? So try to be on that lookout of like, I like this place more than the other place. So it's about you too, feel that confidence in yourself, knowing that I make that decision.
Yep. I would also like to add to that point that in the end, when they ask you that, oh, do you have any question? Ask a question. Ask something, not just generate. Like for one program, they have like told us, oh, this is like very good about our program. So then I asked the PD, oh, you guys have talked about all the good things about your program. What is the weakness in your program? What do you think you can work on? What is the thing? What is the place where there's still, work needed? So one of the PD was very honest. He was like, I would not lie. We are not good with the research part and we are still building it up. So just ask questions that they can, actually sense that, oh, you are not that desperate, to be matching in their program, and you have some say too, and you are confident in yourself.
So one thing I would like to add to this, so one trick that I used in my interviews, it was not a trick per se, it was one question that I kept for all the PDs. The same question I would ask every PD just to gauge how they would respond, and that response I would think about, okay, what kind of program I will be getting into. As Rohail said, okay, you are also trying to understand what kind of program it is. So my question was, which I used to ask all the PDs. So during the residency, it's a high stress environment, it's a hospital. Sometimes mistakes happen, even though there are different, checks and balances, but still mistakes do happen, and it's like a common thing. So how do the program, quality ensures that it does not happen again, and how do they manage that, rectify the situation with the resident, and how do they do that? So that's the question that I would ask every PD or senior faculty I would interview with, and the kind of responses I got from them, that's how I gauge my, okay, what kind of program is it? And it really helped me understand, okay, what the culture is like in this program. So that's another trick that you guys could use to, gauge that. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of the EM aspirants who are watching this will take careful note of that, and I'm sure someone will actually use exactly that. So they'll go on asking these PDs, Dr. Ahsan, trade more questions. Okay, right. So when it comes to picking programs and having a say, as Dr. Rohail, you spoke, how did you go about looking for residency programs in EM? Like, what was your criteria? What were you looking for? Anything that you just stood out to you as green flag, red flag for EM, for residency programs themselves?
Okay, so my situation was a bit different because I was couples matching. So the priority for me was trying to be close to my wife, right? Or like at least getting to live together. So I think geography played a big role in me wanting to match at a particular place. But then after that, I'd say, keeping that aside, I wanted a place where the residents and the attendings got along. So right away, there was a program I noticed that, there was some rift, and the questions they were answering, like, oh yeah, the attendings are great, right? But like, there was like, you'll see them like look at each other funny, or, you'll pick up on something and you're like, okay, like this seems kind of sketch. So I think just trying to gauge the culture, trying to gauge how they actually work together, and you really can't do much of it while on a Zoom interview, right? So I think being at a place, trying to go see it, maybe ask them for like a second look, or maybe just a first look where you get to go just see the emergency department, see how people are working. I think that kind of really, like, there was this one place I didn't match there, but I had it ranked very highly just because I loved the hospital. Like, I walked in and it was like a brand new building, and I was like, wow, this is beautiful. Like, I would love to work here. So that some things just stand out to you. So I think that's kind of how I was gauging it. I was gauging it based on like people's interactions, how like the interview itself went. In terms of red flags, I think there really isn't much. And I think you're also trying to lie to yourself while you're in the interview. Like, oh no, this program's great. I loved it. I had an interview here. Oh yeah. But then, like once you start to kind of dig into it, you start to see like some places everyone's underpaid as a resident, but some places you don't make enough to even cover rent, right? In that town or in that area. So I feel like definitely, it's not just about money, but like money does play a part in everything you do. So like, do consider it. It's not going to be drastic. Like, it's not going to be you're making like 50,000 and like 120,000. It's going to be like, it's not a big difference. But if you feel like you really can't afford to even live there, and you see like residents like commuting from like a distance because they can't even live in the town they work in, I think definitely put that up on your list of like, all right, like maybe not this place, right? But yeah, I feel like it's just the conversation, how it goes. I'm sure people are going to be able to judge based off of that. And don't just try to put some program into your like good list or your bad list just based off, just to have it in there. If you feel like it's just an average place, then yeah, maybe it's just an average place. Don't overthink it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Okay. And how about IMG friendly programs? Are they a thing in EM? Is that a thing?
I mean, honestly, not that I know of. I don't, I was surprised to see Omid Verma and Asad even on this call, because I was like, damn, like there's more people that matched emergency. Like, it's not really a thing, at least in like, like a Pakistani thing. At least I haven't really, I know two people before this that matched EM. So like most people don't go into EM. Most people don't know about it, I guess. I feel like we're all too like naive about emergency. There are programs that favor Caribbean students. Like, you'll see a lot of like Caribbean students, so technically they're IMGs too, but it's very different from us. So I never even like to put them in the same boat. There are a few programs where you can say like, some Pakistani or Indian people matched, but there's no like, at least maybe they're able to speak better on it, but I never found a program to be like, oh, you're IMG friend. Like, it's just, it is what it is.
Right. Okay, Dr. Essen, Dr. Furwa, do you have anything to say on that? IMG friendly programs? Are there any?
Yeah, when I was applying, I didn't look for IMG friendly programs, to be very honest, because the programs that I got interviews from, they're not IMG friendly, but I got the interview. So I guess sometimes, when God is in your favor, sometimes things work out the way that, nobody thought of. So I just narrowed down the programs according to geography, because it was important for me too, to stay close to Chicago. So I applied to everywhere near Chicago, and Chicago, surprisingly, I didn't get even single interview from Chicago. All the interviews I got was from, the other states close to Chicago, Ohio, and, one interview I got from Illinois, but not from Chicago, from Peoria. So it was, I guess, just narrow down it according to geography. And sometimes even non-IMG friendly programs give you the interview. One of the program where I interviewed at, they never hire Desi or Asian people in none of their departments. But this year they actually gave 4 spots. When I checked, afterwards, that who matched over there were the students who I interviewed with, or I, went to the hospital with. So actually 4 of those people who were not even, US IMGs, they got matched over there. So maybe few programs they're trying to, work on that equity thing. So they'll take you. So just, I guess, narrow down programs according to your convenience more. And then if you have if you are, you have more money, just apply to as many programs as possible, because sometimes programs that you didn't even think of matching into, you get interviews and you match. And that's what happened with me.
So one
Sorry, I
thing
forgot to mention. Yeah, sorry,
Yeah.
go ahead, Essen.
Please go ahead, Rohail.
Okay, so I was just gonna say, I forgot to mention that, like, I do say, like, IMG friendly, like, is not a thing, but like, if you need a visa, like, some hospital policies do that and some don't, so definitely watch out for that. I don't consider that as like the IMG friendly thing, but like, if a program doesn't sponsor a visa and you need a visa, so don't apply there. Like, that should go unsaid, but like, be mindful.
Yes, so absolutely what Rohit said, and I have received a lot of questions about this IMG friendly programs. So the term comes from the basically IM programs, FM programs, where they are usually residents in the past from foreign grads who have matched there. So people usually go looking for those residents and then make their list based off of that. So it's not a thing in EM because there are not many residents, as Rohil said, like we are like 3 out of like maybe 4 people matched, or maybe only 3 of us from Pakistan, and not many from even other India or Nepal. And so you won't find many people, many residents in those programs. But one very practical tip that I could give people who are watching is look for programs which went unmatched in past 2 or 3 years. This is very important because those are the programs who are more likely to look at your CV being a foreign medical graduate, because a foreign medical graduate CV looks very different as compared to US medical graduate. Even the Caribbean graduates, they are somewhat similar to US graduate. The reason being, Caribbean graduates are able to rotate in the US hospitals like an actual, like a for 3rd year, 4th year rotation, and they do like so it's like a very similar kind of a thing which US MDs do. So their CVs are quite similar. So what I realized is a lot of EM programs are not used to seeing how a foreign graduate CV looks like. And past like a couple of years of not enough people matching and them going into SOAP forced them to look into foreign medical graduate CV. And now they are more used to seeing like, okay, shadowing and observerships and, rotation and those kind of things in the CV, because that's what we have. We cannot have like an actual, like a clerkship rotation in the ER. So that's a very important thing. And I think it gives you more chance to get an interview or secure an interview from that site. So just look at past like 2 or 3 years data, and those programs who went into SOAP after main match do consider applying there. They're more likely to give you an interview, and they're more likely to match you. And one thing, so there is this preconceived notion that, oh, this program went into SOAP, so probably this might be a toxic program, or this might be like not a good program. It's not the case with EM. It's very different with EM, because EM, there were the number of applicants, they fell from like 3,000 to maybe I think 2,000 applicants or 2,200 applicants in I think 2022 or 23, not 23, 22. So that's what created the situation, the SOAP situation. A lot of good programs, which are like very, very good programs, they went into SOAP because of that. Because once there are like not enough applicants, then obviously if 10 programs, interview the same individual, then it would be like they are more likely to go into SOAP. Just look at the programs which went into SOAP in past 2 to 3 years. That is your list as an IMG. That is a very good list, and that's what I did, and I got a really good response. And that's what I advise the medical students or people who are applying for EM, and I hope that helps them as well.
Yeah, that is a really, really very helpful point, and we'll be sure to highlight that when we share this session. Yeah. One question I believe is appropriate here is on signals. Increasingly, we found, in neurology and even in IM,
yes,
both the number of signals available and the strategy with which they're employed is changing. So what roles does signaling play in EM?
Okay, I don't know if it worked for anybody else, but it didn't work for me at all. And mostly people that I talked to, signaling really didn't work. I guess maybe it just worked for, US IMGs, because for me, I signaled the programs in Chicago and I really wanted to be there. I emailed everybody and I like tried my best to have an interview slot, or even later, after the interview, almost in December, after December, mostly people didn't get any interview after December this year. So even then I emailed them, but I guess signaling just didn't work for me this year. I don't know about Dr. Roale and Dr.
How many
Dr. Hassan, that if it worked for you guys, but I don't think so it worked for especially non-US IMGs this year.
how many signals are available for EM applicants?
I
Was
think
it
it's
7?
I guess
Four,
it was 7.
5?
Yeah, it was 7. Yeah.
So I'll speak to signaling. I mean I signal two like my favorite programs. So one that I did used to work at, and it's the program I matched, and one other program in the area that I really liked. But I also like rotated there. So I did my interview before like interview season with them. So I did the interview when I rotated before applications went in. So I signaled both of them, and one I already had the interview from, and the other interviewed me afterwards, and I used to work there. So apart from those, I feel like I didn't even get the interviews from the other 5 places or 4 places, whatever were. So I don't know. I feel like the signals did nothing for me. I don't think it changed, because I would have gotten those 2 interviews anyways without the signal. So I don't relate that at all. So I think it did nothing for me. I don't know what Essen feels about it.
Yeah, so I think yeah, it's a very subjective thing how you experienced it. It was pretty like a pretty average thing for me, kind of if you say so. So in my case, signaling did help and did not help. How I would describe it is like of a letter of intent. How people like during the match season, they try to send letter of intent or emails or programs and showing interest. Okay, we are really interested in your program. So signaling is kind of a letter of intent, but a more standardized one, more like a official one. So I think that is a way to look at it. And I think programs are still like getting used to like signaling thing, because it's a very new, like a 1 or 2 years old thing. And a lot of programs don't even know how to use that. So I think it will, in moving forward, probably it will be more impactful. And I think it should be used wisely, because rather than sending a random email to a program saying that, oh, we are very interested in you, sending a signal to them would mean more to them rather than just a letter of intent. That's how I feel about it. But I did not get like 100% like a signaling interviews and versus non-signaling. So I cannot say, as I said, it's a very subjective thing. So, but I think moving forward, it will have more impact on the applications for sure.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Dr. Ahsan, Dr. Rohail, Dr. Fara. As of this point, we have, taken a deep delve into the match process as well. Now we're entering the phase where somebody has matched, right? Or they're looking at, their future paths after, completing the emergency medicine residency. So with respects to that, Dr. Fara, if you could tell us a little bit about some of the post-residency pathways that are, present for after you complete your emergency medicine training.
I guess I'll be better able to answer this question after my residency. Right now, I just know that there are a few fellowship options available, like ultrasound, critical care, toxicology, and few more I can't really recall names of. Maybe Dr. Roale and Hassan can contribute to this question better.
You want to go, Rohail?
Yeah, so just in terms of, I had this up here somewhere. Yeah, so in terms of like fellowships after, you get a lot of options. You get sports medicine, which is something I really looked at earlier. You get telemedicine, you get ultrasound, EMS, which is emergency medical services, disaster medicine, addiction medicine. You can go in peds afterwards too if you want to do peds EM. Simulation, which is more so like just actually setting up sim labs for students and all that. You could go into pain medicine. Aerospace medicine is hot these days. It's if you want to get into something that's very unique. But again, a lot of these are like 1 year, 2 year fellowships. The main one that a lot of people really do is critical care. But again, that kind of takes you, and that it's the same critical care that IM people do. It takes you away from the emergency department, but you do get to see a lot of sick patients if that's something you're interested in. And other specialties that I mentioned, like sports medicine, is something that kind of gives you an outside of the emergency room. So where you get to, you might be in the ER like a couple of days a week, and then you get like a day of clinic. So it helps prevent burnout, and it helps you do something different than what you're normally used to. Would I do it? I don't know. I like global EM, so my whole reason for going into EM, I don't know, I think Furbo mentioned that she wanted to do EM after doing house job. I wanted to do EM before I got into medical school. It's always been about emergency medicine. Medicine to me resonated just as emergency medicine. I didn't want to do anything else. I had no backups. I was all in on emergency medicine. And the bigger picture goal for me always was to set up emergency medicine departments in Pakistan. I feel like emergency medicine isn't really a set up field. In Pakistan, we have medical residents and surgical residents fighting over cases, right? Not over cases, fighting to give each other cases, if anything. So I think I do want to, with Dr. Abdul Salam, who was the program director at Shifa, he's one of the people who pioneered the field in Pakistan. So working with him, I do want to set up more emergency departments and make emergency medicine a prospering field. So I think global EM is a path I might take if it's something that interests other people. I know a lot of programs, especially in this tri-state area, do offer that fellowship. So, I mean, it just depends on what you really want to do. If you want to pick a niche, ultrasound, yeah, everyone learns ultrasounds. But if you want to be that ultrasound guy, you could do like crazy ultrasounds like eye and do like random procedures with it. It's definitely a skill, and you get to teach it to everybody else. And you could just do it. Like, they do ultrasounds for everything now. It's insane. So like, if you can just, find a niche, find something that interests you. And it's not like the 3-4 year fellowships that internal medicine people have to do. It's mostly a year, 2 years. So if you want to find that niche, do it. If not, go work in the ED. That's just how it is.
Yeah, I would like to add to Rohail. Absolutely, what Rohail said. There are many options, and depends on what basically floats your boat, what you're passionate about. And another thing that whenever I talk to EM residents about their fellowship options and whether they would want to do or not want to do, there are two things that were part of conversation. One, the compensation, and two, what they want to do in the future. Compensation being like, fellowship does not really add much in terms of compensation in the ER doc's salary. So a lot of people have that economic decision saying, oh, okay, I have student debts, and we did residency, and now if I do like 1 year or 2 year of fellowship, it would not add much to justify spending 2 extra years in as a fellow and living on a not much salary. So that one thing, and I think it's an important factor considering all aspects. And the second thing is, a lot of people do a fellowship only if they want to work in like an academic centers, like a bigger centers. You're more likely to get a job if you have like a niche. For example, you are an ultrasound guy, as Rohail said, or like a wilderness medicine you want to do, or critical care. Then you're more likely to get a job in an academic center. But it's not like all, you cannot get a job with just EM. You can get, but with the fellowship, you're more likely to get a job in a big academic center, or even like the residency programs. It's more likely. So these are the two aspects that come into play later on in your career, when you are looking out for your family, and you have all the finances in your face and life in general. So those aspects come into play. So yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Now, our next question is with regards to the actual role that EM physicians play. So Dr. Fara, if you could tell us a little bit about, the role that you think that EM physicians play in actually advocating for healthcare policy changes and improving overall patient care.
Yeah, I guess they play a vital role about that, because even I was asked that what would you want to change in interviews and like questions like that. So I guess they play a really vital role in that, because you are seeing everything firsthand when you are working in EM department, that how people are treated, that how different people of color are being treated, how people who are coming from a different backgrounds are treated. So I guess they are really big advocates about equity and equality, among patient care and stuff. So I guess they play a pretty good role, and actually, they change policies, because in one of the interviews that one of the meet and greet with the residents, we actually talked about things that residents changed in the program. So they were actually able to change a few things in the program as well, because of the things that they thought that, oh, this is not right and this is not how things should work. So for public health and for advocacy, they play a pretty good role, you know.
So one thing I would like to
Absolutely.
add to this, when I was researching for the EM residency programs, one thing that stood out for EM programs is they have like a half a block or a one block rotation for ED administration. So I think it plays a vital role in developing those skills, or advocacy, or implementing certain things, certain ideas you have in your mind about how to improve patient care in the ER. And ER docs are really unique in a sense that they are the face of the hospital. The patients who are usually being admitted to the hospital are either coming through the ER, or just like a from a primary care referrals and those kind of things. So ER is the face of the hospital, I would say. So anything they want to do or want to improve on which would affect the patient's healthcare moving on into the hospital, they have a big role and vital voice in making sure that the patients get that kind of a care. So I guess in that aspect, ED physicians can play a huge role if you are interested in health policy and administration, and you'll get a chance to do that in your residency as well.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Dr. Hassan. I think that's a very important point as well, that, as an emergency medicine physician, you're the first point of contact for patients that are coming in from very diverse backgrounds and, different, there's a lot of disparities within the healthcare system in the States. We're not even going to get into that right now. But, as an EM physician, when you're that first person that sees that patient, and you also have the power of triaging them elsewhere, it's a very vital, very pivotal role that, it plays. Now, my next question is for Dr. Roale, which is, there's this trend where there's an increasing role of nurse practitioners and physician assistants within hospital settings within like the past years, and it's, scaling upwards. How do you think the role of an emergency medicine physician might alter in the years to come?
So I don't know if you guys are aware, there was this report about the jobs report a couple of years ago. It was one of the reasons why emergency medicine took it sank a bit for the past 2 years. There is encroachment. I wouldn't say there isn't. There's a lot of nurse practitioners and PAs, physician assistants, advocating for independent practice. While I do see the reality of it, I don't think you can take away from emergency medicine physicians. I think it's what their job is. It's different from what a PA's job is, right? As much as you can try to say like, yeah, they can see the bread and butter, but the training that goes into actually being an EM physician, it's the countless hours. It doesn't relate. So I think, yeah, you might see some problems with like some hospitals, especially like the HCAs and the bigger corporations that are trying to save money, and the for-profit hospitals instead of the non-profit ones. You might see them try to take advantage of this and try to advocate for more NPs and PAs and lesser emergency medicine doctors, or like the ratios of less doctors and more PAs. But I still think we're vital to the system, and I don't think you can completely erase this field. I think this is something that's like you said earlier, the first point of contact for most patients. Most patients feel secure knowing that there's a doctor treating them as compared to a physician assistant or an NP. Again, it's a weird topic to even discuss, because there's like a lot of you don't want to end up saying the wrong thing and offend anybody in regards to this, but I don't think it messes with our job security at all. And this isn't just my opinion. This is me talking to a bunch of attendings about this too.
Yeah, I agree with what Rohail said. It's a very controversial topic at this point. If you follow things on Twitter.
Yeah, sorry, if I said something bad, just cut it out, guys. I don't,
Yeah, so yeah, it's a very controversial topic, and there are like a lot of words on Twitter about from between nurse practitioners, PAs versus docs, and all those things. And I don't think neither side is going anywhere. And I think moving forward, so one notion was, so if you put in like extra nurse practitioners or PAs, it's gonna reduce the the cost of running an ER. But there have been studies that are coming up mentioning that in the longer run, it doesn't really help with the cost because of different things. I'm not gonna go into details, but there is like pro argument and a counter argument as well about having nurse practitioner PAs in the ER. And so I think as we move forward, their roles and the ER docs roles are going to be more defined. But I don't think neither party is going anywhere. It's going to be more defined moving forward, and probably we'll see better balance out of this controversy moving forward. Yeah, I think that's all I can say at this point.
Yeah, and also like because you can like no matter how many PAs are there, no matter how many nurse practitioners are there, they can never substitute an ER doc. That would be always needed. Maybe they are needed less, but they will be needed because that's like I guess the authority. So that's where the authority comes into play, because PAs can do some things, but they cannot do all of the things. So ER docs will be always needed, and especially with the world, how the things are, turning nowadays, I guess EM will be definitely playing a great part in every medical department of the world, anywhere.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Now, as we begin to close up this session, I do want to give you guys the floor for any final words of advice you might have to someone who's watching this and is interested in applying for EM in the upcoming cycle for 2025.
Yeah, so I'll go first. I guess the only thing that I would like to add to basically conclude this session. Firstly, thank you so much, guys, for having us. It was a great pleasure to be here today. I guess if you want to go in EM, or no matter which field you are applying to, which specialty you are going into, just start working on your application, on yourself, on everything right now. Because what we do as a Asian student, as a Desi student, we wait till the end. We wait till the last month. We because there's a long procedure, even to get your LORs approved, even to get your SLO approved, for them to be verified. I couldn't even use one of my LORs because it got uploaded after we started getting interviews, so I couldn't use it at that time because there was no point. So I guess just start working right now. If you really want to do something, no matter which specialty you are going into, just jump right into it and just believe in yourself, and don't let people define you. Don't let people discourage you. Just trust in yourself, trust in Allah Mia, and just jump into it, and don't listen to anyone. Don't give up on yourself. Be courageous, be curious, and just put up all the hard work. This is what I learned from my journey. All the things I've been through in my life, all the hardships, finally, I made it. And I guess this is what matters. So just be confident and start preparing, start practicing, and apply whichever field you want to, and just trust the process, trust the process.
Okay, I think I'll go next. So the final advice, I think we have covered pretty much everything at this point, but just one broad bottom line kind of a thing I would like to say is there is no one thing that would say, okay, this is the thing you should do, and that would get you into the EM residency. You should work on all aspects of your CV. Just tune it according to the EM residency program director's liking, and then you should be good to go. There is no like a set score, step one, step two, like 240s, 250s, or 260s. No, you can have like a very like average scores, and you can still match if you have like enough rotations and enough passion to back your CV and ultimately your interviews. So there is no like a set a numerical criteria that anyone can give you. Okay, this is how you match into EM. No, you have to work on every aspect of your CV, and all little things matter in the end, and they add to your whole personality, and then you can present yourself in the interviews and hopefully match in the EM. So that is my advice.
Yeah, I would also like to add to it that one thing that we didn't talk about in this session was the gap after the graduation year till you get matched, until you are applying to the interviews. So I graduated in 2017 from Janassan Medical University, and I did my house job from 2018 to 2019. That I had like almost, pretty much 5 years to cover that, what I did. So I was asked in all of my interviews what I did. So make sure that when you're applying, no matter how many years afterwards, you should have active clinical years, because this is what they are looking forward to. They are not looking forward that, oh, you were just sitting at home and preparing for exams. You should be doing something in those years. And I had pretty much a lot of stuff that I did in those years. So I just put everything else on my application, so that if they ask me that what I did on all those years, I was able to answer it. So make sure, if you have a gap between your year of graduation to the year you are applying in, make sure you cover that parts with active clinical years and public health experience or volunteer experience and some rotations, some research publications, so that you can, when you are asked in your interviews, you can answer that. Over to you, Dr. Roale.
Yeah, so thank you guys for having us here today. Great session. I'm glad there's EM stuff out there now, or will be, so people can definitely look at that, because I don't think I had nothing. I'm sure you guys relate to it. There's no information at all about emergency medicine, at least in terms of like Pakistani students and all that. I just want to say, honestly, guys, just stick to it. It's not, people are going to tell you, like, I had everyone telling me apply a backup. People telling me like, hey, like, emergency medicine with the emergency, you're not going to get emergency medicine. Like, what are you trying to do? And some people telling me, one person actually said, isko kya emergency lagi hai, at like this conference that I was at. And I was like, all right, like, I want to do this, right? Like, and it could be anything. Like, if people want to do family medicine, like, do family medicine if that's what you want to do. But if you want to do EM and, you feel like you have what it takes, and what it takes is honestly you wanting to do it. That's all it takes. So there isn't much. You don't have to be, you could be the smartest person ever. You could be the dumbest person ever. As long as to this point where you feel like, okay, you're qualified to be a physician, where you know enough to, get through your scores or get through your steps, have decent scores, you can do it. It's not, it's just about if you want to do it. So if you want to do it, don't let anyone stop you. Keep going. Don't get discouraged. Emergency medicine isn't just you're in the hospital all the time working. Attending life is actually great. It's shift work. You get to clock in, clock out, not have anything to do with the hospital at all once you're out. So I think definitely look into what the field is. We in Pakistan aren't really familiar with the field because we don't see it too often. Emergency medicine in Pakistan is not what it is in the US. So don't think that is what emergency medicine is. Look into it. Look into attending lifestyles. Look into, how much money they make if that's what's important to you. Look into, how much hours they work. The burnout rate is high on paper, but honestly, I think a lot of people go into fields they don't want to go into and end up regretting it later. So if you feel like, internal medicine is not for you, if you feel like surgery is not for you, maybe emergency medicine is, So find your why, stick to your why. Have, by why, I mean, why you're here, why you want to do this. Be able to fall back on it in times of hardships. Be able to, keep your north, just keep going. It's all cliche. This is what I talk about in my sports huddles, but like, at the end of the day, it's just stick to what you want to do, and you'll get there. And if anyone needs any help, reach out to me on Twitter, on Instagram. Like, I'm here to help. I want to give back. I know I didn't have a lot of people I could reach out to. So if anyone's actually interested in EM and not just, hey, talk to me about this. If you actually want to know something, I'm here. Happy to help. And yeah, thank you guys for having me.
Yep, I would also like to add to Dr. Rohail's all the things that he said, that for EM or for anywhere, if you are this year's applicant, one interview is enough to get matched if you nail your interview. I just got 3 interviews, and when I went to one of the hospitals where they invited us to have a meet and greet with the other fellow applicants, and I told one of the boys that, oh, I just got 3 interviews. He got 9 interviews and he was upset. He was USIMG, of course. He was really upset because other people got like 30 interviews, 35 interviews. All the other applicants that was there at that meet and greet, they had like, oh my God, so many interviews. And that boy, he actually, it started feeling bad for me that I just got 3 interviews, but I was so sure in myself. I was so sure in my interviews that I told him that, you will definitely match, and you'll remember this. You will match. You got 9 interviews. You are gonna match. And then he was like, he didn't have anything to say to me because he was not sure that I'll match. Just on 3 interviews, it's really difficult for USIMGs to say that. So, but in my heart, I knew it that I'll match because I nailed every single interview. So make sure, even if you get 1 interview, even if you get 3 interviews, 2 interviews, 5 interviews. One of my friends matched with 5 interviews, and it was her second cycle. So don't be discouraged, even if you don't get matched in the first cycle. Apply next year again with better resume, with better application, with better personal statement. And even if you get 2 interviews, 3 interviews, just make sure that you will be at your A game for those interviews. So I guess this is it. Just keep on going, trust in yourself, trust the process, trust Allah Mia, and have some tawakkul in your heart and jump into it.
Thank you so much. With that, we come to a close for this episode. On behalf of MedAngle and the audience as well, I'd really love to thank Dr. Rohail, Dr. Fara, and Dr. Ahsan for their time today. This was a very in-depth session, and it truly takes somebody who, is very passionate about the field and giving back to, future EM applicants as well to, commit to something like this. So thank you guys so much for joining us today and taking the time out of your very busy schedules to help future EM physicians on their way as well. This has been an especially productive session, and I'm confident our very resourceful audience will derive tremendous value from this as well. Our vision with this series, from day one was really to just open the doors of US specialties to IMGs, not just in Pakistan, but truly like across the world. And this session, it really comes close to, what our vision is. And I'm really happy to see how it went today. I want to say that our speakers definitely did just that. Now, as always, MedAngle is committed to revolutionizing medical education in Pakistan and beyond. If you're interested for more resources, guidance, and tools, please do visit our website. Everything will be linked in the bio. Have a great night, everyone, and thank you for listening.